chain has snapped.
That's what it's happened.
Good camp somewhere here.
Greetings to another video. So as you'll have seen recently, things haven't always worked out to plan, so I thought I would carry on that theme and share with you 9 of the most common kind of problems or issues that may arise when you're out on your bike and how to overcome them or how to actually prevent them, as a lot of these have happened to me. So let's just get straight into the first one. My chain has snapped. This only ever happened to me once in about the 6-7 years I've been riding. It was the first day of Land's End John O'Groats and my chain snapped. But it was fine and dandy because I had the equipment to sort it. All you basically need to fix is are something called speed links or quick links. And yeah, they're tiny, they're cheap, they just fit in your saddlebag. Honestly, they're so small and it's so easy to fix. So I always make sure that I'm carrying 3 sets so that I've got enough for me if my chain snaps, and then potentially if I see someone on the roadside or one of my friends needs one on the ride. But honestly, it is one of the simplest things to fix. To prevent it, I would just make sure that your chain is in good nick. Basically, you want to make sure that it's not too stretched, and loads of videos on how to do that with like a little measuring metal device. You can pop that in the chain and see how worn it is, but you just want to make sure that you're looking after like the health of your chain. I personally use squirt lube just because it makes the chain last a lot longer because you're not getting a lot of the grime and the dirt that wears down at the links in between. So I've basically gone through 3 inner tubes and 1 tyre. This has only also ever happened to me once years ago, and it's basically because this is like the preventative thing. My rim brake wasn't aligned properly and it had been rubbing on the tyre and it had worn it down, and that's why it had burst. So what you can do to prevent this is make sure if you are on rim brakes that nothing is rubbing on your actual tyre, and then before each ride just make sure that you're looking over your tyres, making sure that there's no like holes or gashes or anything like that. And then to actually overcome this, you can use either like a pound note wrapper, not a pound note wrapper, a pound note, or like a gel wrapper. On the inside is like a makeshift tyre boot. You can actually take a tyre boot with you, or what I ended up doing, because I couldn't get any of that to work, I got a taxi home.
That's what has happened. My hanger has snapped.
This again has happened to me only once on the first day of Land's End John O'Groats, and that's why then my chain snapped. So the only preventative thing you can do really is make sure that it's not bent out of place or that you're not stacking it in a car, because I bent mine and I think this is why I snapped it, because I'd rammed it in the back of my car. It wouldn't fit and I think I'd just put too much pressure on it, had weakened it. And then the only thing that you can do to actually sort this out is carry a spare. They're all so different, so make sure that you get your bike specific hanger. Even between brands and bikes, they're all different, so make sure that you've got your exact one so you can fit it on the bike as you set off. And I was so lucky that I had this on me in my bag the day this snapped. I could just, because people don't carry them, and I was able to carry on my merry way on my first day of Land's End John O'Groats. So just make sure that, please just go and get one now. If you take nothing else from this video, go and buy yourself your specific mech hanger for your bike or bikes. Slight problem. Where the route ended us, what we thought was our campsite for the night is not a campsite.
Went that way, just continued in the direction we're headed anyway. We could camp somewhere here.
The next thing is going to cover lots of different issues that can potentially happen, and it all involves being able to use your phone on the bike. So basically I've had this quite a few times where I've needed to reroute somewhere, where I've needed to try and find accommodation, where I'm trying to find somewhere to go and eat. I'm trying to think of other scenarios where I've needed my phone, but basically my friend Greg had his phone mounted with a quad lock. And so when, like on a couple of recent trips actually, he's had to reroute us and we've just had to rely on him. Whereas I'm like, if I'm on my own, I wouldn't have been able to do that, hence why I got a quad lock. And it's so handy for rerouting and just having all those different options in case you do need to use like Google Maps, just to find different accommodation or find food or find a new route really quickly. I'm going to show you how the quad lock works. Quad lock have been very kind enough to sponsor this video again, so thank you so much to them. But honestly, this is such an incredible product, and when I saw my friend Greg with his, I was like, right, I need to get one, because in situations where things don't go right and you need your phone to hand. So I'll show you how it works. So you get the case, which is like for all different phones, and then you can get either a mount that goes on like there, you can put it onto your stem, or you can get like an out front one of these. But then all you do is you just put it on there and then it just snaps on, and it's proper sturdy. And then you can use that instead of that if you go wrong, or you need to find some food, or you need to, I don't know, put some music on.
Give me out about Taylor Swift the other week. I was like, she's actually alright. And there she is.
Showed me I was like, oh, should I cover that up?
Don't know any of them.
Where you been? I can tell you.
Just get me a taxi, please. I can't. This is the worst I've ever felt.
I've done this countless times, and it's basically when you just run out of energy and you need fuel, you need sugars. And so what I do to prevent this, I just always make sure that I've got extra fuel than I think I'm going to need. But I do feel that like it's kind of like a bit of a rite of passage into becoming a cyclist to have this happen on a ride. And then you learn your lesson, and you always take enough food from then on. Not been the best start to an order. Now my dynamo won't charge. That's connected to my light, so potentially I'm not going to have a light. I've got a backup, but that's not going to last through the night, so God knows.
Don't get caught out like I did, without a light in the dark.
This only ever happened to me once, and I learnt my lesson from this. It was on a 400k ride, which means that you have to ride through the night. It was years ago, and it was a fairly cheap light. And from then on, I then went to exposure lights because they are just phenomenal. And I learnt my lesson from it because I had a backup, but that backup wouldn't have lasted, 8 hours in the dark. So what I would do to prevent this is from the off, just make sure if you want to do night riding and lots of riding in the dark, just make sure that you just pay the money for a reliable light, because that is just the worst thing if you get caught out in the dark without lights. It's not worth the risk. So just pay that money for a really good light. And then the other thing, how I got around it, I basically just got the train home because I was like, I can't do this ride. I can't ride through the dark. I didn't have to walk up Rosedale, but I'm having to walk up this nondescript climb because my shifters won't change the rear cassette. Right, the cable's not snapped. There's only so much you can do to prevent this. So what I want you to do is just make sure that you are keeping an eye on the health of your cables, making sure they're not frayed. But a lot of the times now, cables are internally routed, so you can't always see every single part of your cable. So what I would do is, like, the preventative thing of this is just to keep a record of how long that cable has been in your bike for, and then how many kilometers you've ridden. Also as well, they're going to wear down and degrade quicker if you're riding in a lot of wet or like really harsh conditions. And then the thing that you can do is, if this snaps on a ride, which I've had happen once actually, is you can basically try and make your bike into like a single speed to be able to get back in. And I guess it depends which cable snaps, I should say, because if it's your brake cable, you can just kind of use either the front or the back brake, the opposite one that snapped. If it's your gear cable, if it's the one at the front, then obviously you're just gonna have to sit in that one gear. Whereas if it's the rear cable, which was the one that snapped on mine, I just kind of made it into a single speed, and potentially you're gonna then need the speed links that I mentioned earlier to shorten your chain just to keep it in one gear until you can get it fixed. There's a few things you can do to prevent them. So make sure before rides you are just checking over your tyres, make sure there's no big like holes or gashes or any kind of glass that might potentially puncture your inner tube. And then to fix it on a ride, you just need to make sure you've got a couple. I always carry 1 or 2 tubes, and then also a few patches just in case I get really unlucky. I've got a video on I think I've got quite a few videos on how to fix a puncture. It's so easy. I know when I first started I was like, this is really hard. Honestly, it's not, and I would just practice at home first. So if you're new to cycling, I've also got, if you are new to cycling, I've got an ebook as well, which is called Cycling Made Simple, which has got all the basic mechanics of quite a few of these things that I'm mentioning today. So I'll leave a link to that below. Come on, just do a little crash. Just do a little silly one. And finally, if you have a crash, like, we're making a joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. If you do have a really bad crash, like, obviously you can have like minor crashes and get up and ride home. I've had this once. I came off on black ice, and luckily another cyclist found me and rang his friend, and he had a bike shop, and I rode there. Anyway, he helped me out there. But what I would say is, if you do potentially have a serious crash, is always carry like your emergency contact information on you. I've got a bracelet which is one of my friends had made for me, which has got my name and emergency contact details on there, which is really handy. Also, what I would say is you could put it on your phone, but if you do that, make sure that your phone isn't in your back pocket, because if you come off and you end up on your back, paramedics aren't going to move you quickly to be able to find that. So make sure it's in your saddlebag or somewhere on your bike, just as a preventative thing really, just so that you can get help if you need it. Also, you can put like allergies and stuff on there as well. And the final thing that I do just to try and prevent any of these things, or to help me out in any of these situations, I always carry at least 20 quid, £20 note just in my saddlebag in case I need to get a taxi home. This has happened once when my tyre blew and I couldn't fix it. So yeah, just always make sure you've got some kind of backup. If you've got any suggestions or hints or tips to help with any of these, leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much again to Quad Lock for sponsoring the video, and I'll see you all next video.
Alright, 20 quid's not going to get you home, mate. You're going to need £2,000 for a taxi back from all your rides.
Oh, hang on. Phil's there. One sec, Phil. I'm coming, give me a minute. I'm vlogging, mate. So, what are you doing? Why are you sneaking behind there? Oh, I don't do it every time.
A little flick here, a little flick there.
Shut up.